This is the story of the 4 greatest car heists in history.
They stole the car! Oh my God!
They stole it, y'all! Yeah!
When we think about car theft, our minds usually go to the smallest common denominator. We think of the smash and grab. We think of the shattered window in a parking lot, the hot-wired ignition, the joyride that ends in a ditch. We think of crime as something desperate, something small, something messy. But that is a mistake. If you look at the history of automotive theft, you realize that it isn't just a crime of opportunity. It is an industry. It is an art form. And in rare cases, it is a tool of international diplomacy. Today, we're going to climb the ladder. We're going to move from the chaotic streets of California to the high-stakes world of international shipping, through the rarefied air of multi-million-dollar collectors, and finally, to the strangest geopolitical standoff of the 20th century. We have categorized the 4 greatest car heists in human history, not by their violence, but by their significance. We have the dealership raid, the single-car masterpiece, the Organized Syndicate, and the volume champion. These aren't just crimes, these are legends. We are talking about thefts so large they require spreadsheets to track. We are talking about thefts so brazen they happened while the world watched. And we are talking about a theft so complex that 50 years later, one country is still sending the bill to another.
Looters attack a high-end car dealership and make off with nearly 80 vehicles. That's a looter burning rubber. Thieves have a field day at this Dodge dealership in San Leandro, California.
They stole it, y'all! Yeah!
The owner of the Dodge dealership in San Leandro saw the whole thing coming. There were looters across the way at the Nike clearance store. It looked like they were finishing up and then starting to cross the street. The employees had moved some of the cars to block the driveway, and then he told them to retreat and get out of there.
Damn, they're stealing all the cars.
Video posted to social media shows the moment looters were stealing brand new cars and driving them off the lot. Some of them stopping to burn out the tires on the way.
How many vehicles?
Right now, we're thinking 50. Plus.
Stolen?
Gone.
To understand the evolution of the heist, we have to start with brute force. We have to start with the dealership raid champion. The year was 2020. I don't need to tell you what the atmosphere was like in 2020. The world was on edge. Cities were locked down. And in San Leandro, California, civil unrest was sweeping through the streets. Usually criminals operate in the shadows. They want silence. They want invisibility. But there is a specific type of criminal who realizes that the best cover isn't silence, it's chaos. When the world is burning, nobody is watching the car lot. In the midst of this unrest, a group of thieves targeted a Dodge dealership in San Leandro. Now, when I say group, I don't mean 2 guys with a crowbar. I mean a coordinated army. This was a gone in 60 seconds style raid. It wasn't about finessing the wiring of a single car. It was about total saturation. The thieves breached the dealership and did the one thing that turns a car theft into a fleet acquisition. They raided the key lockbox. Imagine holding that ring of keys. In your hand, you hold the power to move millions of dollars of steel. The thieves didn't hesitate. They began moving vehicles off the lot, one after another, forming a convoy of stolen horsepower. And they weren't taking the family sedans. They weren't looking for the minivans. They knew exactly what they wanted. The inventory loss included almost every high-performance Dodge Challenger and Charger Hellcat available. These are high-performance machines, loud, fast, aggressive. In a single night, this crew managed to drive nearly 74 vehicles off the lot. Think about the logistics of that. 74 cars. That's not a theft, that's an evacuation. You need drivers, you need coordination, you need a route, and you need to do it all while the city around you is in turmoil. Let's look at the numbers. Time frame, a few hours. Vehicles, 74. Total loss, $2.7 million. This earns the title of the dealership raid champion because of the density of the loss. It shows us that you don't need high-tech hacking or international connections to make a fortune. You just need a riot, a lockbox, and enough drivers to move the metal. But while $2.7 million is a lot of money, it is volume crime. It's messy, it's loud. What happens when you trade quantity for quality? What happens when you stop looking for 74 cars and start hunting for the one? We just saw how a coordinated army used the cover of civil unrest to turn a San Leandro dealership into a personal fleet. By hitting the key lockbox, they made off with 74 high-performance machines worth $2.7 million in just a few hours. But as massive as a 74-car convoy is, it's still volume crime. Messy, loud, and hard to hide. What happens when thieves stop looking for a fleet and start hunting for a unicorn? Next, we step away from the chaos of the streets and into the world of high-stakes collecting, where a single car can be worth nearly 10 times that entire dealership raid. There is a difference between a car thief and a collector. The San Leandro thieves were opportunistic. The next contender on our list involves a target so specific, so rare, that the theft itself becomes a paradox. This is the single car value champion. Most car heists rely on volume. You steal a Honda, you strip it, you sell the parts. It's a commodity. But sometimes, the theft of a single ultra-rare vehicle can outweigh a fleet of regular cars. Enter the Alfa Romeo 8C2900B Lungo Spider. This is not just a car. This is a sculpture. It is one of only 5 in existence. Let that sink in. There are billions of cars on this planet. There are only 5 of these.
Widely considered one of the most spectacular pre-war cars in the world. These were cars that were designed to be driven at high speeds, enjoyed at high speeds. They were luxurious on the inside as much as they were luxurious to look at and spectacular in terms of their presence.
In 2022, one of these rolling masterpieces was being transported in a trailer through South Carolina. It was sitting in the dark, secured, likely on its way to a show or a private vault. And then it vanished. Stolen from the trailer, just like that. A piece of history gone. Now, pause for a second and think about the problem this creates. If you steal a Dodge Charger, you can sell it. But if you steal one of only 5 Alfa Romeo Lungo Spyders in the world, what do you do with it? You can't drive it. Everyone will know. You can't sell it at an auction. The VIN is flagged globally. You are in possession of a $20 million anchor. That is the valuation. Roughly $20 million. To put that in perspective, this single car was worth nearly 10 times the value of the entire fleet of 74 cars stolen in San Leandro. One car versus 74. For 2 years, the car was a ghost. The automotive world held its breath. Was it in a private container in the middle of the ocean? Was it in a basement in Europe? Had it been destroyed? The FBI launched a massive investigation. This wasn't local police work anymore. This was a federal case involving an asset worth more than most mansions. Finally, in 2024, the breakthrough came. The FBI recovered the car in a warehouse. It had been sitting there, gathering dust, a hidden treasure that was too hot to touch. Following the recovery, it was slated for auction. This event solidified its reputation as likely the most valuable single vehicle ever stolen and successfully recovered. It is the Thomas Crown affair of our list, a crime of passion, of beauty, and ultimately of futility.
The leaders of the gang are still on the loose. They are known by their street names.
Big G and E identified high-end vehicles including Land Rovers, Mercedes-Benz, and BMWs for the theft crews to steal.
Insurance fraud experts are warning of a national crisis of vehicle theft.
Authorities are calling this a very complex criminal enterprise.
There were no phone calls placed to police. Apparently, no patrol cars came by.
Heist, not a Hollywood film, but a crime going down right here in our area in the last 24 hours.
All of these orange dots represent the 19,000 cars that were stolen from San Antonians within the last year.
We've seen the riot. We've seen the masterpiece. Now, let's look at the machine. If you are looking for a traditional criminal ring, rather than a diplomatic incident or a chaotic raid, the Operation Jacked bust is one of the largest on record. The year was 2014. The location, New York and New Jersey. This wasn't a couple of guys breaking windows. This was a massive international theft ring. They weren't interested in history, and they weren't interested in muscle cars for joyrides. They were interested in the arbitrage of the global market. Here is how the scheme worked. The ring targeted high-end luxury SUVs, Range Rovers, Porsches, Mercedes. But here is the genius and the tragedy of the operation. If you steal a Range Rover in New Jersey and try to sell it in New York, you're going to get caught. But if you move that car 5,000 miles away, the syndicate shipped these stolen vehicles to West Africa. Why? Because in those markets, these specific vehicles could be sold for prices even higher than their U.S. market value. It was simple economics, supply and demand. They turned Grand Theft Auto into an export business. When the authorities finally cracked the case in 2014, The scale of what they found was staggering. In a single bust, they recovered approximately 160 stolen cars. Just those recovered cars alone were worth over $8 million. But that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Is steal those cars, and eventually they would bring the cars over here to the Port of Elizabeth, make their way over here to the Port of Elizabeth or to the Port of Staten Island, and eventually end up in West Africa.
If you know someone who's had their vehicle stolen, or if you've had your vehicle stolen, there's a decent chance it's ended up here.
The ring is believed to have stolen and shipped thousands more before they were finally caught. We are talking about tens of millions of dollars in flowing inventory. A river of steel flowing from the driveways of New Jersey to the ports of West Africa.
The carjacking ring provided a marketplace that no longer exists since the alleged ringleaders, car shippers, and fences got arrested, 26 indicted yesterday.
It's a pretty nasty group of people, this was. I mean, 15 to 20% of these were violent carjackings, a couple of which I remember in particular, a woman being gratuitously pistol whipped as she was dragged out of her car.
But even the most sophisticated criminal ring in New York pales in comparison to our final champion. Because the biggest heist in history wasn't committed by a gang. It wasn't committed by a rioter. It was committed by a sovereign nation. This is it. The big one. The heist that tops every list. We call this the Volume Champion. But it is also the champion of audacity. This is widely considered the greatest car theft in history due to the sheer number of vehicles and the fact that the thieves were an entire government. The year is 1974. The Cold War is in full swing. North Korea is looking to modernize. They want to show the world that they are a burgeoning industrial paradise. To do that, they need cars. Reliable, sturdy, Western cars. So they went shopping, and they looked to Sweden. In 1974, the government of North Korea placed an order. They ordered 1,000 Volvo 144 sedans from Sweden. This was a massive commercial deal. For Sweden, it was an opportunity to open up a new market. They trusted the diplomatic process. They trusted the purchase order. So the cars were shipped. 1,000 Volvos were loaded onto ships and delivered to Pyongyang. The keys were handed over. The cars were distributed. The North Korean officials drove them away. And then came the bill. The outcome? North Korea simply never paid the bill. They didn't dispute it. They didn't claim the cars were defective. They just ignored it. It was the geopolitical equivalent of dining and dashing, but with 1,000 cars. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that was 1974. Surely they've written it off by now. Absolutely not. Let's talk about compound interest. The original debt was roughly $70 million when adjusted for inflation. But they didn't pay. So the interest started ticking, and ticking, and ticking. Today, that debt has ballooned to over $300 million. $300 million. And here is the most incredible part of this story. Sweden has not given up. To this day, the Swedish government still sends an invoice to Pyongyang twice a year. Every 6 months, for 50 years, a letter arrives in North Korea that essentially says, "Per our previous email, you still owe us for the Volvos." And what happened to the cars? These cars became part of the fabric of the city. The stolen Volvos are still occasionally seen serving as taxis in North Korea. If you manage to visit Pyongyang today, you can hail a taxi, and there is a non-zero chance that you will be riding in the evidence of the greatest heist in human history. A car that was stolen in 1974 has racked up $300 million in debt and is still running. It is a testament to Swedish engineering and a monument to North Korean audacity. So there you have it, the hierarchy of theft. We started with the San Leandro raid. $2.7 million, a crime of chaos. We moved to the Alfa Romeo, $20 million, a crime of rarity. We looked at Operation Jacked, a crime of logic. And finally, North Korea versus Volvo, $300 million, a crime of state. It turns out, if you want to steal a car, you use a screwdriver. If you want to steal a fortune, you use a shipping container. But if you want to commit the perfect crime, you use a purchase order, a flag, and a government stamp. Which one do you think deserves the crown? The sheer value of the Alpha, the audacity of North Korea, or the logistical mastery of the New York Ring? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're driving a Volvo, maybe check if you owe Sweden any money.